Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Family EV podcast. I am alone. So that is sad for two reasons. First of all, Joe can't make it this week because of family commitments. And that means, because we want to keep the cadence going, that means you've just got me. That also means there's absolutely no check on my rants whatsoever. So if this ends up being a 3-hour podcast, blame Joe. I am John Garside. I am a regular EV dad. And I would ask that you subscribe to this podcast wherever you find it. It is on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. You can find it at Anchor. We'll put the links in all the show notes to what we're going to talk about today. And I also would ask you to go to Family EV Dad on YouTube and subscribe to that channel as well. So it's kind of weird not having Joe to bounce off. So you're going to have to, normally the benefit of having the two of us is that while one's talking, the other one can be looking stuff up and checking on things. That's not going to happen today. News on the channel, I'm afraid absolutely none other than the podcast. It has been a crazy, crazy week and change. For me personally, I had a midlife crisis. So as if you're not aware by now, I am, as well as being the chief marketing officer for a software security company, and having the podcast and the YouTube channel, I'm also a stand-up comedian. And I realized a dream, two dreams actually, this past weekend. And so I toured with Kabir Singh, who you've seen on the channel before. We did 6 shows actually. We did 2 shows at Wise Guys in Salt Lake City. Then on Friday, then on Saturday we flew down to Hollywood, down to Burbank, and did 2 shows at Ha Ha's, and then we did a late 3rd show before my comedy friend Dave Broussard and myself went into LA and went to the Comedy Store and hung out with some friends and kind of traditional things we do. And by the way, if you want to follow me on the comedy side of what I do, then it's go to Twitter or Instagram, mainly Instagram, it has to be said, for at Big Brit John. And by the way, my alter ego has his own website now, BritishJohn.com. No H in John, although I own the other domain name and it bounces back. So I'll come back to that in a minute. And then then drove down to San Diego, not in an EV. Dave gave me a ride in his Ford Flex, and we did another show there and at the American Comedy Company. And so just a fantastic weekend. I miss my kiddo more than you can imagine, and I've made some commitments to my wife moving forward that I won't do any more traveling for comedy. If I'm doing other events and other things, I'll do comedy there, but I'm not going to travel for comedy on its own. It's just too hard being away from the kiddo. She's only going to be 5 once. I'm promised only once. I rented a car on Turo as opposed to just renting mine out. I rented one. It was the only affordable way of getting a car for one day. It was a 2016 BMW 325 sedan. I only put 180 miles on it, but I needed something to whiz around LA and up to Burbank and run errands and go see some people and then tootle around to the Comedy Store and that. And it was interesting. I really, the flats. My inner petrol head is not dead. That is a well screwed together car. 90,000 miles on the clock. Bit of a shooter, but it was well screwed together. And yeah. So that's going on. We continue hopefully over the Thanksgiving break. I get some more road trips edited, including the one to LA and back. I have a brand new, if it turns up on time, brand new MacBook Pro M1, the medium one, not the Max, not the Pro. The Pro, not the Max. So I look for the 16-inch. I look forward to playing with that. But so much happening this week it's crazy in EV world, and I'm barely gonna scratch the surface. So now with Joe not here, yeah, get ready for some ranting at the same time, and some, that's what's gonna happen. So first of all, and literally in no particular order, Ford and Rivian have decided to go their own ways. And, I have no insights into either of these things, but Ford has been quite clear that they're going to go their own direction. And I think we should look at these things situationally. So right now, the Ford has got 200,000 orders for the F-150. They're going to try and double their production. And that's fine. They have the kind of heft that allows them to do that. If they've got the supply chain to do it, that's a different issue, because finding an extra 120,000 batteries, that is a tall order. Tesla's making big margins. We'll come to that later on, but Ford, not so much. All those pipes that Sandy was pulling out to the marquee, bear in mind, the F-150 was not designed from the ground up. It is an adaptation to an existing chassis. So we will have to see. But they have, Rivian and Ford have broken up. And decided to do their own things. And this isn't too surprising, and a couple of reasons why. First of all, Ford was an equity investor in Rivian fairly early into their big funding rounds with, which included Amazon and others. And at the time, they were going to buy a skateboard and build a Lincoln on top of it. Well, Rivian's floated, and their share price is more than 50% up. They're worth more than Ford right now. If I was Ford, now would be a great time to put a sell order on those things and bank that money and develop your own platform, own the IP. I work in software and hardware. Always own the IP if you can. It'll help you and reduce your dependencies further down. Second of all, Rivian doesn't need Ford anymore. They've got the money. So, what are you going to do for me? This is probably good for both to break up, and probably better for us collectively in the long term to have the benefit of two, I'm going to call them weaponized supply chains in action, because that just is good everywhere. This is an amazing week in California, isn't it always? But we just went through 1 million EVs registered in California. That was the plan with the California rebates, was to make the adoption at this level. Now, 1 million vehicles out of 60 million, okay, but you can't move without seeing a California Camry. So this is a good thing. This is a positive thing, and let's hope that this keeps going, because you can't buy a Tesla until next year. And second of all, that this does become the new normal. Speaking of which, of Californian companies, Lucid, two things from Lucid, which I thought was interesting. They were named Motor things. They were named as Motor Trent's Car of the Year, which is great. They've had a chance to see how well they're screwed together. They've looked at the vision. They've looked at their ability to service those vehicles. But, and this didn't work out, Tom from State of Charge actually got his hands on one, took it to a charger, did a charge test. Whilst he hasn't published the numbers right now, he hasn't published the full numbers yet. What we do know from a tweet he put out is, and I think someone said he was on the podcast, I haven't actually listened yet, 303 kilowatt hours is the maximum charge rate. So that's quite phenomenal. How long it holds it for, that's another question. But they're saying that you can put 300 miles into the tank in 20 minutes. That's amazing. Now, I actually tried to see Tom. I saw Tom tweeting that he was doing it, but it looks like, he did it and then did stuff and then sent it as he was leaving. I hooned it down. He actually did it at Valley Fair down the road from me, which is a brand new charger, just opened up. It's got 14 charging units, 2 heads on each, 2 350s, everything else is 150 with canopies, and it's at the Westfield Mall, just off 280 and 17. And I've recorded the review, but I've got to edit, and right now the company I work for, we're doing a fundraising right now, so I'm kind of busy. But I'm going to try and get that up as soon as I can. And yeah, I hooned it down there to see if he was still there, but he'd gone by the time I got there. It would have been great to see him. But I'm working with a company based next to Lucid in a couple of weeks' time. So maybe I can tie these things together. And actually, Lucid, if you're listening, I live like 15 minutes away from you. So if you want someone to do an independent range test, I can make a day available for that. And I, you know, the goodness of my heart, I will take it down 101 and and then I'll bring it all the way back and we'll get you an independent range tester. I can't see fairer than that. But being serious, I'd love to, and I'm here. I don't think anyone, you know, I use the same testing methodology as Tom and Kyle. So, all interesting things. Things that aren't actually cars, which I found personally interesting, is that Clippercreek, the ubiquitous manufacturer of level 2 chargers, for more years than I can imagine, they're something like 2007, 2006, has been acquired by Enphase. Now they're a maker of solar systems, micro inverters, and also, you know, on-prem battery things. And it makes sense, you know, bringing the solar and car charging together and battery backup makes absolute sense. Very, very straightforward acquisition, that one. They're talking about 40% growth annually in the marketplace over the next 5 years. And that doesn't actually seem that crazy. And so to have a single, you know, we've all seen the Tesla system when it all working together. You know, some good competition is great in this regard. The reason I found this interesting is that it's actually a director at Enphase that rented my car recently. And whilst he didn't allude to this, he did say something that in hindsight does make sense. It wouldn't be a podcast episode if we didn't have a pop at the Chevy Bolt, and they're not going to make any of them this year. So as they work through the recall, and I drove past the Chevy dealer on my way to run errands the other day, and they actually rented the lot next door, and it's just full of them. So there's clearly a stop sale going on there, and you know, you can't park them in a car park in San Jose. I don't know if that's the only place that's enforcing that, but yeah, they have issues to resolve. Like I said, so much news this week. So things that other things range related. Kia Bjorn did a range test in winter in Norway of the Kia EV6, and we have to assume this is good for its brothers and sisters. And he did achieve 250 miles. So that's pretty impressive. So very fast charging car with the 800-volt system, and impressive range. This is affordable road trip material. This is a good thing, and you know, Kia, I'd love to get my hands on one at some point. There's going to be road trips coming up in over winter and into early part of next year. So the family EV channel is the family is ready to travel, and we'd love to use one of your vehicles and do an in-depth review and family use case. Do we go Tesla or do we do Volkswagen? All right, let me say this. So let me divert back to comedy for a few seconds. And so I was on the Kill Tony show in Austin 3 weeks ago. In the episode that I'm on, which is episode 531, aired Monday, as in today's Thursday, 4 days ago. And in comedy, the phrase we use is "I killed," which is why it's called Kill Tony. You only have 1 minute. It sounds it's an interesting format, but you have 1 minute to make an impression, and then there's an interview. And obviously, if you've got any chops about you, you'll use the interview to show your comedy genius. I have been waiting for this for a long time. And I just had a really good feeling it was going to happen this time. I used to go down there to LA when the show used to tour, and I'm going to have I've written a whole thing about this on Reddit, or written it, it's fit to go on Reddit. I just had a feeling, and I was prepared. Now, my sense of humor is not for those of a sensitive disposition. I warn you now, this was recorded 3 weeks ago in Austin, in Texas. Understand my way of, I dial up the accent and I basically crap all over whoever's in the audience. That's my style. But it went across very well. It is not safe for young people's ears. There is some profanity and some adult themes in that 1 minute. And then, and this was not planned because, as you know, I've had a lot of problems with my voice and throat. Thankfully, it seems to be on the mend. I was dangerously running close out of that, but my ego took over. And when the opportunity to sing came up, I did used to be in a rhythm and blues band. I couldn't help myself, and I went with Soul Man. Anyway, I will loop the minute of material and the short bit of the sort of the review bit to the end of this video, and I will link, put a link in the description to the full episode, and it will be a hidden, an unlisted video on my channel, so you don't have to go anywhere else to find that. Actually, I should put it on British John. You know what? I'm going to put it on BritishJohn.com, and I'll put a link. I'll put a link to it. Now, I mentioned that because I'm not going to rant. I'm going to get my rant out there as we come to Volkswagen. You know what? Let's do Tesla. So Tesla put the prices up again. And a Model Y will now cost you $60,000. This makes no difference. I have some thoughts. As a capitalist, I'm absolutely fine with it. As a shareholder, no problem. It's very late nights recently. Like, I miss Joe because normally you wouldn't see me yawn because I go like that to Joe and then he starts talking and I can yawn and do it. But I remember when these were going to be affordable vehicles, when the Model 3 was going to be $35,000 before incentives. I know the supply chain, I know the costs have gone up. But we also know, because it's in their public records, their margin is 30%. And they're removing things out of the cars. That's what's so crazy in all this. They fly. We also know the politics of this and that the rebates are likely to be put back in. This is subsidy. He said he could sell them without subsidy, and this. I struggle on this one. The reason I bought, and look at the ID4, 43, top price of 43 and a bit $1,000 for the first edition. You can pay a little bit more for a Pro S with gradient package and a load of options, but you're still going to get the federal credit, and you're still going to get the regional rebates as well. This is the transfer of wealth. This has got to the point where one less fly in the world. This is transfer of wealth. This is when the richest man in the world, by wealth, is taking advantage. Because those credits were designed to promote, and basically he's now raised it more than $7,500. This is transfer of wealth. So anyway, I'm not going to go full Professor Galloway on this one. Google is your friend if you want to know what I'm talking about. But this isn't the spirit of the program. Like I said, from a capitalism point of view and a market point of view, it's absolutely fine. It is what it is. He can't build them fast enough. If he had a supply problem, then the prices would come down. And we did have that situation in 2020 where the prices fell. But he's pricing it to the market. All right, let's close out on Volkswagen. I'm impressed. So this week we saw images and video in from China of both the ID6 and the e-tron Q5. Now they're available just as bigger SUVs, kind of Atlas sized, but with a third row and about a foot longer in total. And just color me impressed. Both great looking vehicles. Now, whilst we didn't get any battery information at the time for the ID6, we did get information for the Q5. And given that they're both based on the MEB platform, have to assume that they're going to be the same. What's interesting is the longer range one has got an 83.4 kilowatt battery, and the smaller range one, 63.2. My thinking here is they're keeping the range the same between the vehicles. That extra 10 kilowatts is to carry the extra weight, heft, and aerodynamic inefficiency. But yeah, the ID6, worth a look, very interesting. Were it not for the microbus, and that is where my heart is, on the CROS or whatever you want to call it, I would be tempted. Well, look, that was a huge amount from just one voice, and I have to go and do something unpleasant. A friend of mine's husband passed, and so I have food cooking downstairs to take over to her. Joe and I will be back hopefully Thanksgiving week. And then, more importantly, we will be together in Pasadena for an event. Sadly, because of this event, we're going to lose a day because I have to come back from a memorial. But we will do a podcast while we're there together in some form. And then Joe's not here to tell you this, but I will. We will both be at Fully Charged in Austin in April. And we will be doing a live podcast recording with questions from an audience. So our tickets are booked. We're working with the organizing people right now on space and things like that. And if you care, British John will be performing there. I don't have the details of what and the when. I do know probably on Thursday night in downtown Austin, and definitely Monday night at Kiltony, wherever that then is. Joe Rogan's new club may well be open at that point. But other than that, any questions you have, put them in the show notes, and we'll try our best to answer them. Otherwise, please subscribe. And if you have been, thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you soon.
Next comedian's name is British John, everybody. British John is next on Kill Tony. How I hope this is a real British man named John. It is. Make some noise one more time for British John, everybody.
Good evening. I'm keeping the mask. This is the solution to British dentistry. This is... I'm done. Oh, thank you. You're very kind. Now, this is the accent you could have had, but you decided to go with a slightly gay John Wayne ordering avocado toast. You're not going to get an empire, but I like it. I like what you've done. It's nice. It's nice. I have an American wife and an anchor baby if that doesn't work out. That's the new white people shit. Yeah, we're taking that as well. No, I am truly blessed. I want to apologize for my appearance. There are some horrible creases in my shirt, but you're the ones that made wire hangers illegal, so fuck you.
British fucking John. Powerful performance, sir. This is amazing.
That was great.
You're making up for the lack of stage presence and presentation every other comedian has lacked here tonight.